What's going on, great people in the world? It's your guy, Nicholas Wilcox. Alongside me is Johnny May. But we have a very special guest in the building. We got our guy Dustin in the building. Dustin, say what's up to the great people in the world.
What's up, everyone? Thanks for having me on. Me and Johnny are doing a little back-to-back home at home, so he'll be on my podcast right after this at 10 o'clock Eastern. So I'm excited to get on here, talk some football, talk about what we saw in week 3, some reactions, and looking forward to week 4.
Awesome. And then feel free to follow Dustin at the Dun, DUNIT 13 on Twitter. And then
I've been
waiting on it.
And then what's your show plug, Dustin? Like where can everybody follow your content at?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at the DUnit 13. It's Bridge the Gap is the podcast. So if you just search Bridge the Gap Pod, no spaces on YouTube, you'll find it. We are talking about when to bail on players tonight. So it's more of a conversational podcast. We talk about different topics. So me and Johnny are going to be talking about when to bail and how you should decide when to bail on players and when to maybe stick in there for another week or so.
I mean, it sounds good to me. Also, I'm sure we'll get to some. We'll dive into a little bit of that as well. We'll bridge into that as well. Speaking about bridging the gap.
Oh, and then while we're at it, let me just mention I will be on Game Changers with Carla, who's in the chat. I'll be on their podcast on Wednesday night.
Woo.
So tomorrow.
Our girl Carla, what's up, yo? What's up? Appreciate you coming to the show, checking it out. Appreciate you supporting, and Dustin as well. We got a lot to dive into. Some things that we were hoping to have better for from week 3, but we'll dive right into that. We'll be diving into waiver wire, trade advice, the Thursday night overall between Cowboys and Giants. We'll have a preview for that as well. But there's a lot to dive into. We're going to start with like what we missed from week 3 overall. And Johnny, what do you think we missed from week 3 overall in terms of any type of trends, any type of players that we said may have gone off and didn't, like DFS? Where are we at as far as like that goes?
I think, man, probably one of our bigger misses. We were in the same neighborhood on some things, but I think one of our bigger misses, man, was definitely the Indianapolis Colts. That defense is giving it up to everybody, giving it up.
I had the Colts winning that game.
You had the Colts winning the game, but from a DFS fantasy perspective,
oh well, man, we were right about Taylor. He had 2 touchdowns.
No. I'm talking about Caleb Williams in the DFS setting. Caleb Williams in the DFS setting was somebody that was pretty potent.
We passed the ball 50-something times.
Roma Dunze, DJ Moore, Roma Dunze for sure, man, definitely had a big day. That was one of the things, and then obviously, man, like some things that like we had no idea about. Who knew about the Denver Broncos going into Tampa Bay and laying the smackdown, right? Like called the run game for Denver, because I did highlight the fact that Tampa Bay had actually been not as good against the run as we had actually thought. So that was one of the things. And then what about the Minnesota Vikings, bro? What about the Minnesota Vikings?
Cheeks, man. They clap.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Sam Darnold out there saving the day for sure. So those are a couple things, man. Those are a couple things. Yeah, Trevor Lawrence looked terrible last night.
Listen, sure. Trevor Lawrence always looks terrible. The man is not – I've been saying this for a year and a half, that Trevor Lawrence is just a mid-quarterback. He is in that 17-ish range, 15 to 18. Maybe you get up to 14. He's not a top 12 guy. Compared to what he was billed as, which was generational, even if you take that away, if you just look at what he is just a mid-level quarterback. The Jaguars screwed up by giving him big money. That's the worst thing for a franchise, is having a mid quarterback. If you have someone like Trevor Lawrence, Daniel Jones, you feel like you have to lock him in because you're not sure you're going to get something better. If I'm a franchise, I either want a CJ Stroud or a Bryce Young. I want to be really good or really bad so I can move on quicker. Jaguars are straddled now with Trevor Lawrence forever, and they're just going to be a bad team for the next 5 years.
Facts. And talking about, I don't want to say bad teams, but man, like we talked about, what else did we miss? The LA Rams showing up and beating the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers banged up, and it really showed. I talked about it as well. Man, when you lose in the Super Bowl, like it's very, very hard to get back there. And there's a lot of things that happen. And right now, man, the San Francisco 49ers are getting hit 5 ways from Sunday with injuries, performance, Brandon Ayuk and his big money not showing up. Jawan Jennings, though, he was a hero on Sunday, man. He won a lot of people a lot of money and won a lot of fantasy leagues as well. And then the Carolina Panthers, the Red Rifle is back. Deontay Johnson's value is back. The run game now looks good. Chuba Hubbard was looking really good on Sunday. Chuba Hubbard. Oh, Chuba Hubbard. So, yeah, man, it was just a lot. Matt LaFleur, man, Malik Willis back-to-back weeks winning games, man. Like, I think it's time we start giving Matt LaFleur his flowers. Like, he's absolutely, to me at this point, definitely one of the better head coaches in the NFL. And I'll tell you what, man, I'm excited for Jordan Love to get back into that offense and start making some noise. I got a lot of shares of him for sure. So, and then Malik Neighbors, let's talk about that too, man. Like living up to the bill that everybody talked about, or some people were talking about earlier on in the season. Like he's living up to that. And then one of the
wide receiver 1 across all fantasy this year right now, heading into week 4.
And the next guy I'm going to talk about as well.
So high.
Similar Brett, Rashee Rice, man. Rashee Rice, like,
oh yeah.
Yeah, like so it's some things are starting to come into focus for us a little bit after the first 3 weeks, man.
Dustin, what did you see overall when it came to some week 3 and as we head into week 4? What are some trends you might be seeing? What are some things you're believing? What are some things you're not believing? Like,
I think I want to talk about the Eagles-Saints game. I was not a believer in the Saints, right? Derek Carr has always been this hot then freezing cold type guy. The Saints have played outrageous the first 2 weeks. I thought Philly would lock them down, but I thought Philly would just have their way with them. I was expecting what we saw from my Bills. I was expecting to see that from the Eagles. I thought they would just go crazy. And they had a good game, but they only put up 15 points. Now, Barkley had a really good game. He had 147 yards, 2 touchdowns. But Jalen Hurts looked questionable. I mean, he had 311 yards, but he threw the ball 38 times. No TDs, an interception. I know there's no A.J. Brown, but I thought the Eagles would put up 24, 28, maybe 30 points, and they only put up 15 against New Orleans, who is not a great team.
The Saints defense has always been something they hang their hats on a little bit.
Yes.
But what I would say, I was a little surprised with the Saints and how they couldn't take advantage of bigger time matchups. Shaheed was goose-egged. Olave showed up late in that game. But again, like you said, Derek Carr has always been like one of those hot and cold quarterbacks where it's like the first 2 games, this guy is literally just taking deep shots constantly. And really just in rhythm, but then shows up at a goose egg performance. Basically, I see it against the Eagles, where you're at home, you're about to go 3-0 potentially. Like, and Kamara was basically in terms of like big time Kamara was shut down by this Eagles defense that we thought was again like not as great either. So not great signs for the Saints at all, for sure. But Fizz, what up, my guy? Daniel, he says that's a dynasty player with T-Law.
Sorry, the hope is that you have a rookie draft next year.
Trade him immediately. But yeah, we're gonna dive right into some buy low, sell highs. So we're getting ready to take care of that right now. So in terms of as far as sell high, are we buying the Jawan Jennings performance where he literally lit up all of our leagues with over 170 something receiving yards, 3 touchdowns, and just literally made Brandon Ayuk look like the water boy? Are we believing that performance? Are we taking that performance selling high? Are we taking that performance and package him up in a trade? What exactly should we do with Jawan Jennings? Should we hold for the moment because we don't know the status of Kittle? We don't know the status. Pretty much CMC should still be out for another month or so. Like, what are we doing when it comes to Jennings? I'm going to start with Johnny first.
Well, shout out UT. You already know what it's about to go. What it's about to be.
I should have started with Justin first.
No, like for me, this is a player that I would sell high on. And the reason why I'm selling high on him is just kind of what you talked about, right? Like We don't know when Debo's going to be back. Brandon Ayuk, they just paid him all this money. And like the 49ers right now, like, again, very early on, man, but like they're fighting for their playoff lives right now. They have the Patriots, I believe, this week. So that should be a game that they should handle. But given the status of the NFL, nobody knows that. But yeah, like Juwan Jennings, for me, he's absolutely somebody that I'm selling high, especially if you have an 0-3 team in your league. That's somebody that I'm trying to package up with another player and saying, hey, man, this is an opportunity for you to get a win here and get back in the thick of things. So I'm selling high on my boy from UT, Juwan Jennings.
Okay. Dustin, what do you think on Jennings overall?
You gotta sell high. What do you think you could sell him for right now? Future second pick in a dynasty league?
It's really good to dynasty is totally different story.
What do you think you could sell him for in redraft though?
Not too much, because I think there's gonna be some sharp people, and it depends on who you're playing with, honestly. Because there's gonna be people that look at that. He did have 12 targets on 11 catches, so he only missed one target over him. He had 175 yards, 3 touchdowns, and again, Brandon Ayuk was supposed to be that guy, and he wasn't. So if my take on it is, I guess I gotta hold him if I have him. Because
I'm selling.
We gotta wait to see if Kittle's gonna play or not. That's gonna be something big. If we find out there's rumblings about him getting ready to play, then yeah, like obviously he's definitely a sell high. He is a sell high, but it's also like, again, who has him? If he's like your second flex right now, like if the opportunities are still here like this for him coming into next week.
Here's why I'm selling. Here's why I'm selling high. And this is what you have to look at with Juwan Jennings.
Yeah.
What can you get for him? And are you okay taking that, or do you want 5 receptions for 33 yards and a touchdown? Because that's what Garrett Wilson just had last week against the Patriots, who the 49ers are playing this week, who have a really good secondary. So Brandon Ayuk, remember, didn't practice, didn't play preseason. This is basically week 1 for him if you look at the timeline. Like, so he's going to be better. You've got Juwan Jennings facing New England secondary, then Arizona secondary, then Seattle secondary, then KC secondary, then Dallas secondary. You're talking about some top cover corners out there now who should be on Brandon Ayuk, so maybe that opens up a little room. But outside of week 2 against Seattle, New England has shut down wide receivers. I don't like the matchups for Juwan Jennings, so I'm selling high right now because he could come out and have a 3 reception for 20-yard game next week, and then you have no value left. The problem with guys like Juwan Jennings is you have to sell while they are strike, even if he's going to be good, because if he's bad. If he's still consistently good, his value doesn't change. But if he's bad, his value is nothing because he has no history of being good.
I agree. And that's also the risk that you take on as well if you hold the bag on him. It's more about, I agree, you should be selling him. It's more about, again, what are you getting when it comes to some of these trade offers? Because, again, I know there's some leagues I play in that people are going to look at this Jennings and just think exactly like how we're thinking. It's like, why am I gonna take on Jennings when he's never had a history of doing this before? Like, again, like why is this? Why am I gonna take him on? So you just gotta find a creative way to package him up. So I'd say take a Jennings and take like, I don't know, like you take another running back like Ford, Javonte Williams, something like that. You package him up. You try to upgrade your roster because it's like it depends on what type of league format you're in. If you got some sucker that wants to take him,
sign them up.
Like, and yeah, here you go. Here's a pen and pad, paper. Hit just initial right here, and thank you very much. But
that's where you're at. And this is the last week without bye week, so you're going to have teams that are going to be looking towards week 5 and going, "Oh crap, I've got teams on bye. I'm missing some players. Maybe I need something." So if you need to upgrade your roster, this is where I like to do 2-for-1s. You take a Jennings. And you're right, just package them with maybe you find one of those low end like an Isaiah Likely or a Pat Freiermuth tight end and someone's struggling and you can trade them and get, a good wide receiver out of it because they need some tight end and some upside. Maybe that's what you get.
Tight end wasteland. Good call.
Tight end wasteland. If you have 2 okay tight ends right now, you're sitting on a pile of gold.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Next high candidate I have on the list is Aaron Jones.
Oh, wait, hang tight. We got a question in the chat.
We'll get to that in a second.
All right.
We got Aaron Jones, I think, as far as a sell high opportunity. Aaron Jones is one of those guys that, when he's on your roster, he does something like this, what he did this past week. You know what I'm saying? Like 26 fantasy points in most leagues on 6 catches, 46 yards, and over 100 yards on the ground. Like, isn't exactly the Aaron Jones that people said, oh my God, he's a steal. This, that, and the third. Do you think he's a sell high right now, guys? I'm going to start with Dustin this time.
I'm going to hold him for one more week. He's got the revenge game coming back to Green Bay this week.
I'm glad you said it.
I like that. I like the volume we've seen. He's playing over 50% of snaps. He's not playing a huge 75, 80, but he's playing 60% of the snaps usually, 55 to 60. But 19 carries last week. Green Bay probably still starts Malik Willis, who I think that magic could run out. So Minnesota could go out there and get 2 touchdowns and have a 10-point lead going into the second quarter or going into the second half and just run Aaron Jones. We haven't seen Ty Chandler really kind of do anything with his carries. So I think I'm going to hold him for one more week. Then he gets the Jets in week 5. I think I tried to sell him before that because in the Jets, then his bye week, then Detroit. I don't love that stretch of matchups between Jets, bye, Detroit. So I might hold him one more week, then sell high. But I think you can lay the groundwork now with some of these 1 and 2 teams, 2 and 1 teams who might be looking for a running back. Start laying some groundwork like, hey, what do you think Aaron Jones is worth, and see where they're at, and then get yourself another week of a good game, especially the revenge game. If Aaron Jones goes out there and puts up another 20-plus points, his value is just going to creep up just a little more.
Awesome. Johnny, what's your thoughts on this?
KOC, baby! King of Chuck! KOC!
I knew this was coming.
Hey, man. Listen, man, that's what Kevin O'Connell does. And, I think, for me, looking at Aaron Jones, even, before the season started, I think you go back maybe 2 or 3 years, man, in an offense like this is a perfect fit for him. I think he's a little bit older, so, he does bring some skepticism for me. I even said it on Sunday. I have a hard time trusting Aaron Jones against good teams, and I still think the Texans are a good football team, but the Vikings just stomped them. So yeah. So I'm selling high on him for sure. I wouldn't even say necessarily even one more week because you got an older running back. You got somebody who's nipping at his heels. You got, an offense that's obviously going to throw the ball. I think there are some new stars or some new players that are emerging for the Minnesota Vikings and Jalen Naylor. They're getting TJ Hawkinson back here, within the next handful of weeks. So I think there's more questions than answers for me for Aaron Jones. He's got off to a great start, and I don't know if you're actually going to be able to sell him any higher than what he's been doing right now. So for me, long-winded answer, I'm selling high on Aaron Jones right now. Okay.
I'm a little torn because I've thought about the Aaron Jones narrative because, he's going to be playing his former team. But I think it's time to do that because I still like Ty Chandler, even though he isn't, Aaron Jones is like Dustin said, isn't running away with the whole opportunities of snaps. He's still in that, late, it's still almost like a 55, 60, 40 split almost. In an offense where you do want a running back like that, like Aaron Jones, the problem is, again, you want to take this opportunity and, if you can upgrade your position, take Aaron Jones and straight up trade him for a better receiver, or straight up take Aaron Jones and package up another mid-tier receiver and upgrade at a running back position that's more safer. It's somewhere where, again, these opportunities don't come too often, but I wouldn't mind holding Aaron Jones for one more week, but if there's an opportunity to really sell high on him, I think you have to take the opportunity. Last sell high is going to be very spicy. Very spicy, and it's because, again, people are going to think that, because this team's been winning, I don't know if I'm not sure exactly what to do because I got some questions in my DMs about it. It's Patrick Mahomes and or Travis Kelce. Are we selling high on this combination if you have them, or one piece, or whatever, and to turn this conversation to our buy low segment, are we buying low on these guys as well? Dustin, what are your thoughts on this?
Can you get out of my league for a minute here, because I'm in a dynasty league where we start 2 quarterbacks and we have a super flex. So you theoretically can start 3 quarterbacks. And I have Patrick Mahomes, and I had drafted Drake May and J.D. McCarthy this year. Obviously, J.D. McCarthy's on the bench. Now Drake May looks like he might start. I traded a third for Jacoby Brissett. Someone offered me before the season Kirk Cousins, a first next year and a first in 26 for Patrick Mahomes, and I said no, but I'm thinking about revisiting that trade now and getting out from Patrick Mahomes. listen, Patrick Mahomes is an amazing quarterback, probably one of the best quarterbacks to ever play, like top 2 quarterbacks, him and Brady. He's just not that great for fantasy. He just doesn't put up 40-point games. He puts up 20 to 25 points, which is still really good, but it's never going to be more than that. He very rarely ever puts up a 30-point game or more. I'm selling Patrick Mahomes. If you find someone who's struggling right now, who's looking for someone who maybe had Tua and it is worried that Tua's done, I'm selling Patrick Mahomes if you can. And Travis Kelce, if he's not, he might be washed. If he's not washed, is he just being kind of phased out or limited in that offense because they're saving him for the end of the year? I don't know. I'm not super happy with what he's done lately.
Makes sense. I would say, like, when it comes to this combination, like, it just depends. If you have both of them, I'm just holding them because, look, like, we all know what Mahomes and Kelce can obviously do together. I'm just not in agreement with selling Mahomes. You spent a decent pick on him, and yes, like, he may not give you the best of ceilings because he's not as a running quarterback, but at some point, the overall regression is going to turn for the favoring of this combination for both Kelce and Mahomes. Like, when you look at Mahomes, yes, he was pedestrian this past week, once again. But in terms of this offense, we still love Rice. We still love Worthy. We still love Kelce. So this offense, from a fantasy perspective, should still be able to turn this thing around. And I'm expecting bigger games from Mahomes moving forward. We've got a division game this upcoming week. Kelce as well. Like, tight end has been a sham this year. Across the board when it comes to drafting, a top, round 5 or earlier tight end. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just crazy. So, again, like, from a dynasty perspective, absolutely these guys can definitely be sold for pieces or something like that, or something more crazy, or someone's going to offer you something wild. More so Kelce than it is Mahomes. But in terms of redraft, like, I like holding on to these guys just to see, like, for a week or two more. And then if it starts becoming a little bit more like they haven't had a big blow up game just yet, then all right. Johnny, what are your thoughts on this before we move on? And then we'll take Joseph's question.
Yeah, I'm selling Mahomes. I actually have him in a home league right around here. And then one of the reasons why, like, I'm cool with selling him is because I got Jordan Love. Jordan Love went incredibly late in this league. So obviously that makes it a little bit easier for me to say that I'm selling. But I think there's also a piece of this that, like, we have to take into consideration as fantasy managers. And I think we become a little bit blind by it at points in times. The Kansas City defense is so good that they're not going to be playing from behind like other teams with quarterbacks who throw the ball a lot. Like, Andy Reid's obviously going to throw the ball. They wanted to run it a little bit more this year. We've seen them obviously win the Super Bowl with their run game and throwing the ball when need be, right? And when I say need be, obviously, it's with a grain of salt. It's Patrick Mahomes, so obviously, like, they're going to throw the football. But I just think for me, like, the game scripts are going to be far and few between where they're going to be trailing so much and so often that it's going to require Patrick Mahomes to throw the football the way that he threw the ball, 3-4 years ago when he was lighting the world up. And then, like, with Travis Kelce, like, I don't want to say he's washed because I think we said that last year, but I think, like, he's just at a place where these games in week 3 and week 4, like, they don't mean anything to him at this point. Bring back preseason football, right? If, like, at this point, like, it's week 1 for him. And, like, he's going to pick and choose his spots. You got Rashee Rice, who is the go-to guy. Like, he is the guy now for the Kansas City Chiefs. You have Xavier Worthy as well. And then, even guys like, and they're not fantasy relevant, but real life football, guys like Justin Watson and Noah Gray, like, Patrick Mahomes is going to spread the ball around to those guys. So really, whenever they need it, Travis Kelce is going to be there, and they just haven't needed it so far in the first 3 weeks of the season.
And that's fair to say. I think game scripts haven't been as favorable when it comes to Mahomes, like, really coming out and slinging it. Like, it has been game scripts where it's been neutral, where they've pretty much ran the ball in these neutral game scripts. So it just makes sense. I expect this to turn around. We're gonna have a blow up game from this combination soon enough. It is just worrisome for some people who have done it in terms of they tried to combo this combination, and it's kind of taken away from their depth a little bit in terms of being so top heavy with probably their starting lineup. We got a question to get to. And Joseph, yes, we apologize. We got a schedule here. We got to make sure people get their takes and we give you guys the best value. So we got going on. We need to get context because is this a dynasty question? Is this a redraft question? Like, come on, Joseph, you can't be telling us to say Chiefs, man, and you don't give us the content that we need for answer your question. So need to clarify on what this is. But it's Nico and Olave for Achane and Garrett Wilson. He said he lost Pacheco, and he has Jay Connor and Amon-Ra. So he said standard redraft 12-man. Standard? What is still? Seriously? Standard? Is that literally like touchdowns? Like, or half point PPR? What's going on? Standard. If this is literally a standard question, man, you guys gotta get out the basement. You gotta start playing some more full point PPR. If this is literally a touchdown only thing in terms of who you got. I guess for me, it's definitely tough if you lost Pacheco. I would say Achane and Garrett Wilson. And the only reason why is because Garrett Wilson is spoiler alert, is a buy low. And I think that him and Achane, I think just have a lot more. Achane just, again, we've talked about Achane. Excuse me. I've talked about Achane.
You've talked about it
almost all summer, and people are starting to catch on. But in terms of Nico and Olave, I just think there's games where Olave is going to have games in which he did last week, and then there's other games where he's just going to have really pedestrian numbers. And then same thing with Nico. It becomes with Houston. It's not that Nico will have pedestrian numbers. It's more about just that trio of Nico, Dell, and Diggs. Sometimes there's only two of them are going to get there sometimes.
Yeah.
And we've seen this for the last 3 weeks now. And Tank Dell has been the one suffering. So if I have it when it comes to this trade, when it comes to standard, even half or full PPR, like full PPR would be interesting from this debate because then I probably would have Nico and Olave because these guys are wide receiver ones in our team. But in terms of a standard, I would say just Achane and Garrett Wilson because you gotta keep Achane, especially if you lost Pacheco. James Conner, I'm not in love with him, but he's still a guy that's gonna get pure volume at it, as a running back. He still could flirt around with that RB1, high end RB2, especially if you still have Amon-Ra. But yeah, what do you guys take on this question overall, Johnny?
I'm with you, man. I think Achane and Garrett Wilson for sure is the side I'm going to be on. I think just with Garrett Wilson, like it's coming with Aaron Rodgers. Like he loves to get down inside the red zone and throw the ball to his guy. I think you can see that there's something brewing there on the positive side with Garrett Wilson and like a player of his talent and the way Aaron Rodgers is starting to kind of click for him. So I like that. And then with the Miami Dolphins and their quarterback situation right now, right? Devon Achane's got to be the guy. Like he's got to be the guy. Like I'm still concerned and I'm still going to be worried about can he hold up throughout the course of the season with that type of workload. But when you just look at it, like you said, from like a standard perspective here, as far as like who's going to get in the end zone more out of the combination of the two players that you have, I definitely feel stronger about Garrett Wilson and Devon Achane for sure versus Olave and Nico Collins.
And then
I agree with that. Like I know it's not PPR, but I still look at targets as a unit of opportunities. And the Garrett Wilson Achane side has more targets on the season than the Olave and Nico Collins. It's 42 to Nico and Olave and 45 to Achane and Wilson. So in terms of potential opportunities, they have a slightly better potential opportunities, which I like. So I'm going to lean that side. You did lose Pacheco, so you do need another running back. I think Achane gives you that big game potential that I think you can get from Olave and Nico, but so does Garrett Wilson. And I'll take guys who are bigger plays. Like you said, you don't know with Olave, like, is he going to have bad weeks? Like, you're trusting Derek Carr. Is Nico going to get phased out for Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs? You just don't know week to week. I'll take the guys who have the higher percentage chance of seeing opportunities on their team.
And that's where I'm at with it because it's like it just makes this is close still for any format, obviously, but it's just kind of being a little bit more nitpickier with it, especially because you already lost a running back and for standard format, like when you lose your running back, it's definitely tough to kind of come back in general. But the buy low list is as follows. Like there'll be some names that I think that we it's just a mixture of guys that if you feel that there's certain guys on your overall like league that people are slipping on, let us know. We can talk about it. But some buy lows candidates here they're pretty top heavy, and it's because for the most part, some of these guys are from last week. We want to reiterate like these guys are still like nothing too much has changed with these buy low players. But if you can grab one or two of these guys off this list, I think you really are playing with hot grease. Is there any buy lows that you guys are thinking about that may have not made this list but want to talk about? I'll start with Dustin.
Yeah, I'm looking at Justin Herbert in terms of a quarterback. He's still a top level guy now. He has only seen 26 passing attempts, 20, then 18 passing attempts. Now he's kind of banged up with an ankle, so that's why he only had 18. So if he's going to miss a game, now they have Kansas City this week, then a bye. If you have spot to put him on your bench and you can get by for the next 2-3 weeks, I'm okay buying low on him right now from a manager who's kind of panicking because they don't have a quarterback. So let's say you might have Daniel Jones on your bench, and you can turn Daniel Jones into Justin Herbert because the guy who has Herbert needs a starting quarterback. That's what I'm looking at. If I can buy Justin Herbert cheap, if I can stash him on my bench for 2 weeks.
Okay. And then from guys on this list, who would you say has probably the easiest route to acquiring?
Probably Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson are in the same tier, but I don't think Gibbs carries the weight and the value that Bijan does. And I said this before the season, like when I'm looking at guys who have potential to be the running back one, Gibbs is the lowest priced out of all of them. When you're talking Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, Christian McCaffrey, I think Jahmyr Gibbs, they're all in the topic of, hey, I can be the running back one, and Gibbs is just worth his value is so much less because he shares that backfield with David Montgomery. But Montgomery's still older, like he might not hold up. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is the lowest price guy on this in that tier that you can get.
I would argue ETN because I think people are nervous of this Jaguars offense. I think that
they should be.
Yeah, it should be. I think people are a little bit spooked that Bigsby still might take some work. But honestly, for we're talking about like the cheapest price to acquire on this list, like it should be ETN because I think people are just nervous of Jacksonville in general. But ETN's still a guy that he could still play with RB1 numbers when he has a lot of this volume and usage going his way, which he currently still is, even with all this stuff with Bigsby talking and Jacksonville stuff. If anything, Jacksonville being down, ETN should get a lot more targets and catches in terms of potentially not garbage time, but per se, like they're really down in the game. But we're waiting for the ETN breakout game. I think that game might be coming sooner rather than later. I do agree with Gibbs. I also like trying to buy low on Debo. I'm not saying go injury chasing. But in terms of price tag, like he was doing a lot. And again, if we're predicting that CMC is not coming back, like he's seeing a specialist out in Germany, people. He's going overseas to find answers. That's not a good sign.
No. Yeah, he's probably getting some sort of stem cell therapy that we can't get here.
Still not a good sign. Like, are we expecting him to even come back this year? And in that case, we got to add Jordan Mason to this list then as a buy low. If we really don't think CMC is coming back, but Debo obviously would be as well. I think Debo is more likely to come back in the next week or two, if anything else. But Johnny, what are you saying? Your thoughts on some buy lows? Did we miss anyone on this list in terms of who you might be thinking about? Anyone that you can add?
Debo was the guy I was gonna say.
Sorry, I took your thunder.
No, you're good. No, you're good. Because actually, it just gives me an opportunity to talk about a trade that I made. That I sent it to you on Monday. That I made earlier in the week. I traded Bijan and Brandon Ayuk for Breece Hall and George Pickens. Which for me, I think everybody knows George Pickens. Yeah, that's okay. Listen, I will continue to die on that hill. I will continue to die on that hill. So I think
hill people.
Hey man, listen, we got the dub this week. We got the dub, and I'm not a frustrated Brandon.
I don't know how people's fantasy rosters though, and holding George Pickens. But
you digressed. But yeah, like I definitely Debo, and I tell you, like another one, man, that like right now is the time to get him is Tyreek. Because I think there's not a lot of there's still a lot of questions about how this quarterback situation is gonna play out. And like, does he come back? Don't know. And what does it look like moving forward for them? Like, you have to find a way to get Tyreek Hill involved in the offense if you're the Miami Dolphins, and you're probably never going to get Tyreek Hill for a cheaper price as what he's going to be available to you for right now. So I know you kind of took the ETN route, which is cool. I'll take Tyreek Hill. I'll take the Tyreek Hill route just because, anytime he can get the football, he's still one of the most explosive
Tyreek
players.
is going to come cheap no matter what, though, and that's the thing.
I don't know. I don't know, bro. I don't know.
I guess, but
hey, man, yeah, who would okay. I shouldn't say who, because I think that kind of just opens up like a whole different, can of worms. But right now, like, if you have Tyreek Hill and you didn't draft well and you're 1-2, 0-3, like, you got to make some kind of changes, man. And like, you don't know how long you can wait for a quarterback to come through for your top number 1 overall pick. So I think try to swoop in there, man, and get that discount while you can. It might not happen this week if things don't pop off this week for him. Because what is it? Hundley is going to be there, and he might end up being better than what
I hope
we
so.
actually think. So
Miami people were holding the bag on Miami players. Hope so, at least. Like, he is a Pro Bowl quarterback. People, I don't know.
Oh man,
first you're a Pro Bowl quarterback. Like,
yeah.
All right. We got some questions to get to. We got our guy George Play. He is a consistent, awesome content intake of our show. We appreciate it. So we gotta take care of him. We're doing well, George. Should I trade Waddle for Puka? I have more Flowers, J-Mo, JSN, Brian Thomas Jr., and Keon Coleman. That is a smash for me. Puka, again, like, you're taking a risk, but in terms of right now, like, it's risky no matter what, because if you hold the bag on Waddle, and again, we were just talking about Tyler Huntley, we had Skylar Thompson, and then eventually homeboy Tim Doyle came in the freaking game last week in a blowout. Boy. So that being said, yeah, you trade Waddle for Puka because, again, like, I think those guys are in the same tier for me. I thought Puka was going a little too high. I thought the 2-3 turn for most cases were the opportunity to grab Puka. So those guys are in the same boat for me. I would just take Puka because we know the Rams offense just is slightly better in terms of getting spread the wealth around from, when Kupp comes back to then Puka. So I would definitely do this trade in terms of if you have Waddle, because there's only so many opportunities you'll have left right now to see what you can get for Waddle. Otherwise, you're just holding the bag. But Johnny, what are your thoughts on this?
Man, I think this is a trade this is a potential trade for me where I'm saying, like, just don't. Like, I don't say don't, but like, just hang tight, man. Just hang tight. Like, I don't think we necessarily like have to do this right here, because with Puka, and he's got like this reoccurring injury thing. Like, it's been a thing like all off season. He starts playing, he's banged up again. I don't feel comfortable pulling this trade off, man, because it's almost like what is more likely to happen? Like, is Jalen Waddle? Is it more likely to happen that Jalen Waddle can get back on track? Possibly. Or is it more likely that, hey, the Rams, maybe they played their ceiling game on Sunday in a division game against the 49ers, and maybe that's not, I don't know. I can't give you with conviction to make this trade, man. So I'm standing, bro.
I feel the same way. It's like, why? Why are you making this trade? Like, what are you gaining? You're gaining Puka, who's not going to play for another 5 weeks, or you're going to have Waddle, who doesn't have a quarterback for the rest of the season. So you're hoping when Puka does come back, he's good, and Waddle is still bad, and like, their playoff matchups are both pretty tough. If I'm going to trade Waddle, I'm looking for an upgrade now. Like, I don't want to wait till week 10 to have Puka, right? Because then my season might just be done. Like, I want something that I know what I'm going to get now. I want to increase my points in weeks 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't care about week 9, 10, 11. I need to get there and have a winning record to have a shot at the playoffs. So unless you're 3-0, I don't make this trade because I don't think you're just gonna have a wasted spot unless you can throw Puka in your IR and you can pick someone up. But then basically you're trading Waddle for a waiver player for 4 weeks and then Puka. I just think you need points now to make the playoff run now, because if you're not winning now, you're not going to win. There's no point in winning in week 10.
That's true. I mean, and then looking at the receivers, like, to put that into context, like,
yeah, you can get by.
That would make some sense. You can make this trade. You don't have to make this trade. What we're telling you, you shouldn't urgently have to make this trade. You can definitely sit on it. I would say, look, I mean, I just like the Rams are just a little bit better offense, and yeah, like who knows, Puka could come back really slowly. Who knows when he's officially coming back as well? Like, so there is a gamble either way. But in terms of like, yeah, if you need production now, yeah, probably make this trade because look at the receiver depth. Like I like DJ Moore, I don't mind Zay Flowers and JMO, but these receivers aren't exactly, consistent receivers that you can use on a regular weekly basis. We're talking about weekly volume, week to week right now. They have some of those guys outside of Moore, and we saw it with Flowers this past week when the Ravens just kept on, Lamar only threw the ball like 16, 17, 18 times, and that's what happens to some of these Ravens guys. So in terms of overall just consistently week by week basis, like I'm in agreement with the fellas, but I would still probably would want to do it in terms of if I want Puka and I like the Rams offense and I think everything's going to go fine. But if you need production now, then I probably wouldn't stress it. Got a question from Nick. He's asking about, can Jefferson, Aaron Jones coexist on my team? They absolutely can. Because look, like we talked about, chucka.
KOC.
O'Connell. This Minnesota, offense is consistently going vertical, consistently playing high octane offense. So in terms of how things are rolling right now, like yeah, Aaron Jones is still the running back that you would want. Just make sure you get a handcuff with Ty Chandler, if someone dropped him or whatever, and make sure you pair this backfield up correctly. And obviously Jefferson he's matchup proof, so it doesn't really matter. I would still consistently start these guys overall. Did you guys have anything to add on this? Any different?
No, thoughts? I did have a question about our previous trade though for you guys.
Sure.
I think this one, I think Jefferson and Aaron Jones can definitely exist. So we're talking about trading Waddle for Puka. Would you rather have Waddle for Cooper Kupp, or would you rather have Puka?
I'd rather have Kupp, to be real. I'm not a big fan of trading for players who are out for like an extended amount of time. If it's a week, unless to your point, you're 3-0, but a week, 2 weeks I can work with. 4 or 5 weeks, man, I've been burned too many times by that.
And then one more for you guys, because I'm looking at, I don't know if you guys follow Alex, Peaked in High School. He puts out a trade value chart every week. In that same range of Waddle and around the Puka range is T. Higgins. Would you trade Waddle for T. Higgins?
Right now? Yeah.
Right now.
Absolutely.
I would right now, yeah.
So that's what I'm thinking. Like, if I have the Waddle, I want more production, so I'm willing to take a bet on like a T. Higgins or Michael Pittman's in that range, or Amari Cooper.
That would be a little closer. Pittman would be a little bit closer.
I'm saying you get more production now, and you have a little more upside. So, like, if I get T. Higgins, who's again like Brandon Ayuk is basically playing his preseason right now, you might see some increased production. I get points now instead of waiting on a Puka or Cooper Kupp. But
good call.
That was my thought.
I would say George got one more question. He was asking about if he would be wanting to trade Jordan Mason for another running back. Who should
Jordan Mason and DJ Moore.
We'll talk about Mason and DJ Moore for Bijan. Man, I don't know. The only reason why I say I don't know is because I think Mason, and based on the receivers that he has here, see if the guy will take Flowers. See if he'll take, see if he'll take Flowers first before Moore. Because then that'll be a little more even when you're not giving up your wide receiver one. Because Mason has, we all seen it, has RB1 upside right now. And Bijan obviously has the same thing, but then giving up more as well, then you're really looking shaky at receiver. Your guys' thoughts on this before we move to the next question?
Yeah, I'm fine with. I agree with you. Like, if you're going to trade Mason and get Bijan, I want to trade one of my lower ends. So, can you trade a Flowers or you had Brian Thomas on there. Obviously, I'm a Keon Coleman guy because I'm a Bills fan, but I think if you can trade a Brian Thomas and Mason for Bijan, I'd do that. I don't want to give up DJ Moore and Mason because you're giving up two guys that are top 10 at their position for a guy who's top 10 at his position.
Yeah, I think this is just an age-old, like, hey, man, in the 2-for-1, 9 times out of 10, the person giving up 2 is giving up too much to get the 1. So I'll ride with you guys on that.
Makes sense. HD, what up, HD? Always coming to the channel as well with his questions. We appreciate you as well. 4-point PPR question. Would you trade Gibbs, Ramondre, Keon Allen for James Conner, DJ Moore, and Brock Bowers? Current tight end state for HD is he has Pitts. Current receivers, Amon-Ra, Nico, Devontae, Waddle, Keenan, and Keon Coleman. So we got Gibbs, Ramondre, and Keenan for Connor Moore and Brock Bowers.
So wait,
I'll let you guys take this first, and then I'll add my thoughts. Don't want to hog the mic.
Yeah, no. So he's trading Gibbs, Ramondre, and Keenan Allen.
Right.
Yeah.
Woo. Yeah. I'm probably saying I'm probably not making that move, man, because I think you just talked about Jahmyr Gibbs. I feel the same way about him. A little bit late to the party this year, just because I have this thing in my head with the Lions, and it's been there all year. 5 players, 1 ball. But Jahmyr Gibbs is obviously the most talented guy out of the group. Ramondre didn't show up well on Thursday Night Football.
No, he didn't.
No, he didn't. He didn't show up well for sure.
I mean,
he didn't show up. But the previous 2 games, he had played well. And I'll say it again. I think Ramondre is definitely really underrated in the passing game for sure. Keenan Allen, obviously, there's an injury question with him, like just getting onto the field. I'm a James Conner guy, but like I feel like you're giving up a little bit too much between Connor, DJ Moore, and Brock Bowers. We talked about it. Tight end is a wasteland, and Brock Bowers may be he may end up being one of the 3 to 5 best tight ends, fantasy tight ends this year. I'm not a fan of this trade myself. I don't know what you guys think.
And that's how I feel about it. When you're talking like Brock Bowers can be one of the top 3 or 5 tight ends, you already have another guy in Kyle Pitts that is a top 3 or 5 tight end. So you don't need a tight end. This streams to me like if you had a Dalton Kincaid who is not good, and I've been saying that for a long time. If you have a guy,
if you scored a touchdown,
it's coming from a Bills fan, man.
Finally a touchdown. I mean, what do you freaking do? Lots of let Brock Wright catch his touchdowns. I mean, Nick Van Eck caught a touchdown too. He's
whoa.
I'm just saying.
I can't believe it's coming from. You're a Bills fan?
Listen, I can talk about Dalton Kincaid and how
I
could talk about Dalton Kincaid and how he is just not a valuable tight end for fantasy because he's not split. He splits uses with Kincaid. I've watched a lot of his film. When I watch Kincaid film, the 2 words that stick out to me are lost and lazy. I don't get it. Like he runs out there and he's lazy in his breaks and he is lost in his blocking. He can't do like he just goes out there and he's like, oh, who do I block? There's there's a guy. Let me get here late. And he comes on this break and he's like, I'm gonna run this break. And then like Josh Allen's like, oh, you didn't make your break. I'm gonna turn away. And he's like, oh, but I'm here now. It's like you're 5 steps too late, man. So you don't need Brock Bowers. That's what if you had a lower end tight end, you don't need to trade for Brock Bowers to upgrade your tight end because you have Kyle Pitts. Tight end is a wasteland, and you have a guy who's in the top who should be a top 5 guy, and you're trading for another top 5 guy. Unless this is like a crazy tight end premium, I just don't think you need to make the trade. I agree. You're getting rid of Keenan, who's got some injury history, but you're getting DJ Moore, who are both on the same team, so that's like an even swap when they're healthy. You're trading Gibbs, who I think is a top 5 running back, for James Conner, who I think is a 7 to 12 range running back. And you're trading Ramondre, who I think is that 12 to 15 range running back, and you're getting a tight end that you don't really need. So I don't know where Brock Bowers slides into your lineup in terms of flex plays, especially with the revolving door that could be the quarterback there. Like we could see Aiden O'Connell this week. We don't know. Like we don't know what that offense is going forward. So it's too many red flags for me on the Connor, DJ Moore, Brock Bowers side when you just don't need to make this trade.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're giving up. I feel like in this trade, like you're giving up Gibbs for like a bologna sandwich. Like like I said, I've talked about James Conner and my dislike for him. I still respect him as a fantasy running back because he's going to get usage. but it's definitely not worth this trade. Like, if you want to give up if the other side is gonna try to take Ramondre and Keener from you, I wouldn't give up Gibbs. Instead, take Connor out the equation, and then just take, if you really want a tight end for this situation, for Stevenson and Keenan for Moore and Brock Bowers, sure, I'd do that. But Gibbs and adding Connor to this side just makes it lopsided for you, especially you giving up Gibbs. If you're requiring Gibbs, oh yeah, I'd take this. But you're not. You're giving him up, and I wouldn't do that. I know people are frustrated, like Johnny said, in terms of Gibbs right now, but he's still playing decent. It's not like he's like falling off the cliff like he started out last year, where people were, again, drafted Gibbs pretty high last year in terms of him expecting him to take over, the room very quickly. It didn't really happen until later on in the year. Gibbs still playing fine ball. It's not like he's one of these running backs that are in dire straits of like not producing right now. Again, it's only about to be week 4. Have some more patience with Gibbs. I would not trade him at all.
No, I wouldn't either.
Just moving on to the next, we'll have Breezy, we'll have Ventro, and then we'll have Nick again. So Breezy, he's asking what's up. He's got a full point PPR. He's weak at running back. He said send away CeeDee Lamb, Montgomery, Baker. I hope that's Baker Mayfield for Kyler, Jacobs, and Garrett Wilson. Boys?
I think it's a wash at wide receiver. Like CD to Garrett Wilson is a slight downgrade, but I think it's close enough for you to consider that a wash. I think it's an upgrade from Baker to Kyler. And I think it's a slight upgrade from David Montgomery to Jacobs. So I might make this trade, but I don't love sending away CeeDee Lamb for Jacobs. If I'm sending away CeeDee Lamb, I want a locked-in running back one. Like Jacobs has injury issues, usage issues. I think Emmanuel Wilson, who I think we were talking about in waivers, like that's a guy who I love. If I'm trading CeeDee Lamb, and I need a running back, I want to get a Gibbs. That's what I should be getting for CeeDee Lamb. I shouldn't be getting. I get it, you're getting Garrett Wilson, but I think you're going to see similar point production from both sides, and I just don't want obviously running back is your weak spot in that, but that is the most volatile position in fantasy. So I want to make sure if I'm trading a locked-in stud at wide receiver, I'm getting a locked-in stud at running back.
Yeah. I would say go ahead, Johnny.
No, you got it, man. Go ahead.
I don't like sending away CeeDee Lamb either. I'm in agreement with Dustin in terms of like if I'm sending away, like I understand the QB upgrade getting Kyler in this makes it a little bit more even here, but from CeeDee Lamb to Garrett Wilson, to me there's still a gap in terms of CeeDee Lamb was still the wide receiver 1 when it came last year, and he still plays in a very high octane offense where we know he's going to get a lion's share. David Montgomery, a lion. Lion's share of the targets and target share in this offense for Dallas, because you've seen what happened last week. It was an outlier because CeeDee Lamb was not playing down the stretch, but I wouldn't really worry about that whatsoever. But again, CeeDee Lamb and Montgomery, who we know he has a solid role, has a similar bruiser role to Jacobs for this trade. So to me, it becomes like, do I trade away CeeDee Lamb for basically Kyler here for me? And the answer is no. QB is too deep in most formats and leagues. But Johnny, what do you think overall?
I don't love it either, but I can see the Kyler side because one of the things, I think is just one of my classic quotes. You just got to be patient, man. Like Baker, he just played a shit game.
Wait, breaking all your quotes for a book here?
Kick a game, baby. Kick a game. Kick a game, baby. Kick a game. Baker just had a bad game, right? So I think it's easy to get in panic mode. He had a bad game against a perceived bad team, so it's easy to get into panic mode. But then obviously you look at Kyler, and I think we all know what to expect from Kyler Murray in this offense. They're going to put points up. He's going to finish his. Obviously, if he stays upright, he's going to finish potentially inside of the top 5 for fantasy quarterbacks, maybe even higher. I think Josh Jacobs is really the key for me in this trade. And the reason why I say that is he's looked good early on, and Jordan Love is not there. And I think when Jordan Love gets there, obviously it naturally is just going to open things up. And we have yet to see what Josh Jacobs can do in an offense where he has a respectable offensive line, a respectable, an elite quarterback. And obviously, we just talked about Matt LaFleur and this play calling, and then like Garrett Wilson, like I could see Garrett Wilson. I could see it starting to click for him and it's starting to catch on. So I'm actually okay with this trade. I wouldn't say that I love it because I think David Montgomery is one of the most undervalued running back / fantasy players in all of fantasy football. Yep. He's a great flex play at worst. But I'm cool. I'm cool with this trade with getting Kyler, Josh Jacobs, and Garrett Wilson. Don't love it, but I'm cool with it.
Yeah, David Montgomery currently is RB9 on the season. Like, that's crazy that we're not talking about him as being locked in. I agree. Like, Jacobs has been good, but there's too many question marks there on that side for me with Jacobs. And like I said, if you're weak at running back, I want a locked in guy. If you told me it was James Cook or Devin Achane, like, I'll make that trade all day because I like the upside and like their locked in volume. I just think that the Packers could rotate Jacobs out and throw Emmanuel Wilson in there. Marshawn Lloyd gets healthy eventually. They throw him in there. You just never know. Jordan Love comes back and it's pass with that wide receiver core. And his volume could drop to 12 carries a game. And I don't want that. I want a guy that's going to get me 15 plus, 20 plus carries a game. And Montgomery's currently getting you at 17, 11, then 23. Jacobs had 16, 32, and 14, but that 32 was Malik Willis' first game against Indianapolis, where Indianapolis couldn't stop a dang thing. So
constantly.
Yeah. I mean, he's not going to get that every week.
I don't mind Jacobs. It's just more like, again, like I just have a hard time trading CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, it's hard to trade away a top 3 wide receiver and not get a top 3 guy back on the other side.
Right. If you guys are enjoying the content, please follow us on the Twitter. Please like the video. Please sub to the channel. Like, we got this for you guys every single week. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you guys follow Dustin as well, he's our special guest tonight. So feel free to please follow him as well. Going back to the comment section, we got a couple more questions that we'll take on, and then we'll just take a moment and we'll come back to it. Ventro asked about Cooper or your boy Pickens. Should he start this week for full point PPR? We got the Browns taking on the Raiders, I believe, and then we have your Steelers. Who you guys play this week?
Colts.
Interesting. You take this one, Johnny?
For me, obviously I'm gonna say George Pickens, and it's even big.
When's the last time Pickens scored a touchdown?
Man, listen, every advanced analytic shows that George Pickens is getting busy.
What's on the tape?
Man, listen, all 22 shows a lot of plays that are out there on the field because of zebras. But like for me, man, the Colts have been the team. This was Caleb Williams' get right game. Was the Colts? This was Roma Dunze's coming out party. And if you see all the things that people talk about George Pickens and his athletic ability and him being a freak of nature, and then not to even throw into the fact that Justin Fields, he might not be setting the world on fire statistically. It's just kind of like what we're talking about, with Patrick Mahomes. He's probably a better real life quarterback than he is a fantasy quarterback right now. And I just feel like for me right now, at some point in time, the game is coming for George Pickens to throw up 25 to 30 points. And with Amari Cooper, it's not there for the Cleveland Browns, man. It's not there with Deshaun Watson. It's not there. Amari Cooper's still obviously the go-to guy. But for me, if you ask me, I'm taking GP every day of the week, twice on Sunday, not just because I'm a Steeler fan, but just because number one, this is probably one of the best matchups that he's going to have all season long from a fantasy perspective.
Okay.
Let me temper that Pittsburgh homerism there.
Oh, look, Nick loves us already.
Thank you,
listen, I know that the Browns are hot trash. We all know they're hot trash. We all know Deshaun Watson can't play quarterback anymore. They don't have anybody else but Amari Cooper. So I'm starting Amari Cooper because of that. Here's the problem with the Colts. Yes, they have been the whipping boys for everyone this year, like Caleb Williams. Everyone just plays the Colts and just dominates them. But they have been dominated on the ground. And that's where I feel like the Steelers will run Justin Fields. They will run Najee Harris. They will run Cordell Patterson. And I just don't know how many passing attempts there's going to be for Justin Fields in this game. Because if the Colts can't score points, what do? There's also the narrative that maybe the Colts finally realize, like, hey, we need to do something drastically different and change up their game plan and come out and shock the world and stomp all over the Steelers. It's scary to start Amari Cooper. It doesn't feel good. You are like, ugh, this is gross. But I'm starting Amari Cooper this week.
Hey, man, you don't say that about them coming out there and stomping on the Pittsburgh Steelers like that.
There's a possibility.
It's definitely close, though. I give him that. It's definitely close.
It is close, yeah.
So Amari Cooper coming off 2 touchdowns. He's the wide receiver 1 for the Browns, who clearly look a mess with Watson at quarterback. And then you have Pickens, who Fields has been playing really great real life football from a fantasy perspective. He's been decent. But it just depends on, again, could GP really get a lot more targets and volume this week with, Van Jefferson had this injury. You got Cordell Patterson mixing in, Calvin Austin mixing in. So, I mean, it just depends. I just got to see it with GP. Just give me the game. Like you talking about. Give me the game that we could, that we saw tendencies of last year happen a couple times. I just need to see it. Like Cooper, he's just one of those guys that we've seen it before, even on, when he's on trash teams going back to the Raider days. He still was decently producing as a wide receiver, high-end wide receiver 2. Pickens right now is still flex play. He hasn't produced as wide receiver 2 yet. So I just need to see it overall. And it's not against your boy, Johnny. It's just more like I just need to see it at least. Like, give me at least wide receiver 2 numbers this week, and then we could definitely talk about, going into that narrative. But
fun fact.
Go ahead.
This is a revenge game for Amari Cooper. He has yet to play the Raiders since he left.
Say that.
He has yet to play them since he's left.
Gentlemen. And I use the term loosely. Gentlemen. Oh, man.
Whoa. We are.
Yeah.
Fire up that revenge game, man.
Jeez. Fire it up. Mark's got a question now in terms of should he take Bijan and DK for Monty and Neighbors? Full PPR. Now this is very interesting.
This is very interesting.
Should he take Bijan and DK versus Monty and Neighbors? I say smash that.
Me too, man. Smash
that. Yeah. Cash it out at the bank.
Yeah.
Hey, bank, here's my check because I'm cashing it for my league winnings. Thank you. I need an advance. Commissioner, I need an advance on this because look, like, man, this Seattle offense with DK Metcalf has got me like thinking that he could definitely now be the wide receiver 1-ish, like consistently. Finally, in terms of that guy. Neighbors is already that, and don't get me wrong, Neighbors has been balling out. He's a wide receiver 1 right now in fantasy football. Will he finish that? Will he finish as a top 10? It's possible because of what the volume we'll get, but are we really expecting Daniel Jones to consistently keep this up? I have no idea. That's why I need to get out of it.
That is my biggest fear, is that when does Daniel Jones turn back into a pumpkin? And it could be any point in time.
Literally.
Right? Like, we just saw Derek Carr. We just saw Derek Carr. Like, Derek Carr is great for 2 games. All of a sudden, and now we got Daniel Jones out there chucking the ball, and Malik Neighbors has 18 targets in week 2, 12 this past week. He only had 7 in week 1. So, like, when does he drop down to sub double-digit targets and is just good but not great? And DK Metcalf is so good. He was such a value in drafts. Geno Smith is an okay quarterback, but he's good enough. I mean, I don't know if you saw this past weekend, he just threw a ball like at the defender's head, and DK just went around and like grabbed it and just snatched it out of him. Like, just DK can do stuff. Like, and I think Geno's realizing that, like, just get it near DK, he's going to catch it.
DK was one of my favorite picks in all drafts if I could get him. In any draft that I could get him, I took him. So like I everything you said times 2 with DK. Like I'm all the way in, and I think obviously with Bijan, right? I think it becomes a matter of like eventually this thing is going to pop for him. Like you can see it. Kirk Cousins is struggling to get the ball out to him on the zone plays. You can see the explosiveness there. Yeah, man, just sign me up for this trade all day. Yeah, sign me up.
Makes sense. Next question. We got Ramondre and Ayuk for Tyreek and Braylon Allen.
No.
That's an interesting trade.
No, I mean,
interesting trade. He's offering Ramondre and Ayuk for Tyreek and Braylon Allen.
Listen, I'm not buying Tyreek with no Tua. I'm not buying Tyreek with Skylar Thompson and Tim Boyle and who knows. Like, we don't even know if Tua's coming back. If we're saying we don't know if Christian McCaffrey's coming back, there's a chance that Tua never comes back this year.
Yeah.
So even if they go and get a Ryan Tannehill, even if they trade for Malik Willis, which they won't do because the Packers won't let him go, like, he's not going to have a quarterback that you're like, yes, I'm comfortable with. Like, yes, Tyreek is still Tyreek, but he's not going to have a comfortable thing. I like Braylon Allen. I work at the University of Wisconsin. I went to the pro day. I've seen Braylon Allen. He is a big dude. But he is slow, and he is just – I get it, he's worked it, but he's still behind Breece Hall. He's still behind Breece Hall at the end of the day. I hate the Jets. But at the end of the day, like,
we hate the Bills.
Ramondre and let's face it, Ramondre and Braylon Allen are not a wash. Like, it's clearly Ramondre's side. Like, he's the number one guy there. I think Ayuk is going to get better. I think Tyreek is plateaued. I don't think he has those big games because they just can't. They don't have a quarterback that can get him the ball. So I'm staying with Ramondre and Ayuk here.
Johnny, what are your thoughts on this?
Like I said, I'm a Ramondre guy. I'm also a Tyreek guy. But the thing for me is kind of what he said, like the Braylon Allen piece, and I've seen it with my Steelers. Like, the number 2 guy is only able to do number 2/1 things because of what the number 1 guy does. Like, that's the only reason why.
Yeah.
So, like, for me, I see that and like, yeah, like, does he look good? Yeah. Like, if he was on another team, would it be a different conversation?
Oh,
yeah.
I wish he would have.
I mean, we got Jordan Mason in running back 1 territory, right? So, I mean, so I'm with you on this. I ain't feeling this one right here, man.
I was so mad that Braylon Allen didn't run his pro day because I think it would have helped his draft stock. I was so mad when he went to the Jets because I think he would have went to somewhere else. If he would have went to Dallas or one of these other teams, he would have been. If he would have went to the Chargers, he would be in the talk of like rookie of the year conversation right now.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. Yeah, quickly for me, it's like Ramondre for Braylon Allen is not a wash. I know Ramondre had a really bad showing, but at least like the Patriots will find a way to still get him involved. Braylon Allen, same thing, but it's not going to be that level. Ramondre's still got the opportunity to get the touchdowns here. And if I'm trading for Tyreek, I at least want a little bit of a blanket for the other guy I'm getting with Tyreek, so that way I can at least have some type of flex-worthy starter. Next question we got is Brian Robinson and Fire Move for Najee and Jordan Addison.
Sounds like a Steelers fan to me.
Sounds like a Steelers fan to me. I would say for me, I'll just take the Najee Jordan Addison side. I think I know Najee, he had that sling on and everything, and then Jaylen Warren's now banged up with the hamstring. But I would probably still take the Addison side here because I think Addison offers, hidden gem potential right now, especially how Minnesota's been clicking. I'm sure he'll come back at some point, but if you obviously need someone to start this week, I probably would not do this trade. This is only if you have depth. But what are you guys thinking?
I'm sticking with Brian Robinson and Freiermuth. I do not love Jordan Addison. Never have, never will. I think a lot of his touchdowns last year were from broken coverage or guys falling down. He is not a overly skilled football player. I think he's just mediocre and benefited from some big plays that happened to have a guy fall down and he was wide open and they got him the ball. I wouldn't be surprised if Jordan Addison comes back, which might be this week. It might not be for a couple more weeks.
Say it.
That Jalen Naylor might just take a spot.
That's it, baby. I'm telling you. I love that kid, yo.
Or Jordan Addison might just be a workout king where he's running routes and not getting targets.
Talk about it. I am Jalen Naylor, baby.
I am stopping this right now. Stop this nonsense. Jalen Naylor is not going to be any more relevant when Addison gets back, and especially when Hawkinson gets back. Naylor's not going to be much. Let's be honest here. Let's be honest.
I don't think Addison's much when he comes back with Sam Darnold. I just don't think that offense is much.
Oh no, man.
Let me jump into this and say this right here. Let me just say this.
We'll see.
If you're 4-0 with what they have going on out there, and I'm not saying they just don't ever play Jordan Addison again. It's kind of hard to be like, let's hop in here and let's start changing a bunch of stuff up because Naylor, man, the kid's got game, bro. He's got game. So
he can play, but
yeah.
Listen, I think Addison's. I just think Addison's a better receiver talent.
I want you guys to write it down, timestamp it. 1:09:51. Jordan Addison, under 50 targets, under 600 yards for the rest of the season. Book it.
Let's go. I'll ride with you.
Under 50 receptions, under 600 yards rest of the season, and that's it. That's him coming back this week or week 5.
Delusional. Definitely delusional. But anyway, moving on. So, Fizz talking about Fields, saying he just needs trust from his coach. He's finally getting that now. Yeah. Seriously. And then send Coop back to town.
No, I mean, Cooper's got to go somewhere. They got to trade him.
Yeah, that was the only time I was ever buying Amari Cooper was Dallas Amari Cooper. I buy that one.
I didn't mind Raider Amari Cooper, honestly. He was always a great guy to draft later because people didn't want no Raiders players. And I was like, I'll just take him to wide receiver 3. This is great.
Yeah.
All right. We got waiver wire to get to. We got week 4 waiver wire to get to. So we got top waiver QBs right now in terms of what we got as far as who might be most available for your leagues, whether it be 10 team, 12 team, maybe in a deeper format. And we can also talk about guys that who could still be out there. But in terms of waivers, as far as Darnold or Fields, who you guys got rest of the season between those two guys? Johnny, don't go first.
Let's see. Do I want the guy throwing the ball to Justin Jefferson or George Pickens? And the George Pickens is good, but Justin Jefferson is great. And do I want a team that's chuck it, chuck it, KOC, right? That's what I want. I want the team that's going to chuck the ball left and right. Give me Sam Darnold all day.
All right.
Well, fun fact, actually, I had both of these two on my roster, and I started Sam Darnold because even though I am a Steelers fan, I am playing to win, and Sam Darnold absolutely gives you the best chance between the two of these guys. And again, man, KOC and what he does with quarterbacks, man, like I love it.
Yeah.
Look, man, I think you guys are both wrong. I like Fields. And the reason why is because, look, I'm not going to say Darnold hasn't been playing magnificent because he has. I like the offense in terms of fantasy perspective. That's clearly what we're going at. But I think that if we got to look at the injury report this week between Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. If both of these guys can't compete, we got to add this guy to the waivers. But Cordell Patterson is someone that
Shout out UT.
Now, they say Najee Harris is going to be good to go and Warren is probably out.
All right. Well, either way, I think we'll still add Cordell Patterson to the mix. But in terms of what I'm talking about with Fields, like I think he's definitely priority over Darnold slightly. And it's because Fields can still run the football. We saw him run a touchdown in this week. Like he's playing mistake-free football. And I think defenses will look to see if he's changed from consistently scrambling around the football all the time. But I think Fields has that ceiling that we look for in QBs for fantasy purposes with the legs, because I think Fields, if he consistently does what he did this past week, like again, turnover free, has some rushing upside to him. I think overall from a game by game weekly ceiling upside, I think Fields should be, at least rostered. Absolutely. a lot more. But over Darnold, you could start either one of them and be all right. But I think you guys are, as far as right now, I think Darnold, but I think Fields can still have that ability to later on can break, fantasy later on in the year. And then Geno Smith, who, again, if we're buying it to Seattle's offense turning around, which some of us have, it's just more about like, Geno. You have to buy Geno, especially if you're more of a deeper format, 2 QB format. Like, I think Geno is definitely a pickup for sure. We could talk Andy Dalton, but I gotta see another week of it to kind of really see if that's going to stick. Obviously, that's really for more super flex, very deep QB format if you need him. We got another question that we'll get to very quickly. We've had a lot of questions. We really appreciate you guys for sure. Like, we love it. Like, please keep the fire going. Like, if you haven't liked, subscribe to the channel, please do so. We'll bring this fire every week. Should I trade Mike Evans and James Conner for Achane? I have Jefferson and A.J. Brown, so I'm feeling good at receiver. 10-man PPR redraft. Whew. As much as I love Achane, can you get a better running back than James Conner? You get a better running back out of the deal. For instead of trading away Connor, this is tough. Trade away Evans and Connor for Achane seems a bit rich. Even for someone that loves Achane, like literally does. President of Devon Achane fan club. But Mike Evans and Connor is a bit too much for Achane. I think I would rather take out another running back to trade. If you're gonna trade Evans, we could just see about just doing Evans for Achane straight up, in my opinion. Yeah. But what are you guys' takes on this before we move on to the running backs for waiver wire?
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, you're trading because it's not just Evans and Connor for Achane; it's Evans and Connor for Achane plus whoever else you're sliding into your lineup. And I don't think you're going to get that. If you're looking at Achane giving you 20 points a week, roughly, you're looking at Evans giving you 12 and then Connor giving you 15. So I'm still 7 points shy. Like, is that guy on my bench going to give me 7 to 10 points? I don't know if you have that on your bench. So, and the fluctuation with Achane is just too much for me. So I'm not trading two guys for one when it's Devin Achane. If it was someone who I thought was on a better team and had more upside, I think I would do it. Now, the upside for Achane is huge, but like more consistently upside, that's where I want to be. If I'm making the 2-for-1 trade, I want consistency, not game-breaking ability.
Yeah, to your point, the player that comes to mind in a trade like this would be Evans and Connor for Saquon Barkley, something like that. Yep. Right there. I'm in on that. So I won't go long-winded, but I agree with you guys on standing pat on this trade.
Yeah, that's just what it is. I mean, Evans for Achane straight up would probably be like the better overall thing, but
a much better deal.
That's putting Connors adds a little too much. So we got top running backs for week 4 on the waiver wire. Some guys we've already mentioned before, especially if Braylon Allen and Irving are out there. You pick them up. Rico falls in that category as well. There's, Benson's I still see out there in an uncomfortable amount of leagues, like on the waiver wire. Khalil Herbert's very interesting, along with Roschon Johnson, because I've said this since July. Don't draft Swift. Just don't. Just don't do it. He was going like mid-6th round in most cases, 7th round in home leagues for the most part. Like, it's just don't draft this guy. I was like, he was basically the Miles Sanders of he's Miles Sanders of last year, in my opinion, right now. Because Swift, they're not even not even scripting him up for catching the ball at the backfield consistently, which is what Swift does a little bit more better than in between the tackles. Like, I wouldn't shock me if Chicago started going a little bit more Herbert, because that would be the guy I would want. But if Roschon Johnson's still out there, kind of wait to see what happens. Like, we got Emmanuel Wilson out here that I'm sure you guys want to talk about. We got Ty Chandler on this list. Did we miss anybody on this list that you guys felt that should still be added? Or
the only other 2 names I will add to this are Kareem Hunt, who is activated off the roster, who could take over for Kansas City. And I doubt he's out there available, but if Jonathan Brooks is out there, he should be back week 5.
Lord, he's not available.
He's not. But I'm just saying, like, check your leagues. You never know.
You never know.
If a team decided to drop him, if he's out there, you need to pick this. He should be back week 5 or week 6, and he is a top 10 running back when he is healthy.
Yeah, I'd say for me, man, it's Irving and Herbert and Emmanuel Wilson. I know you were talking about him a little bit earlier, but Emmanuel Wilson, he's just popped on the screen. He's just popped, and every time he's been getting the ball, he's been making plays. So he's definitely somebody, especially if you don't subscribe to Josh Jacobs. This is an opportunity for you to get a running back on a potent offense at a pretty decent price that could, end up being a potential league winner for you down the road, or somebody that you can play later on in the season. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah, Bucky Irving for me is a guy that I said it on a podcast 4 weeks ago that midseason you wouldn't be able to trade Rachaad White for Bucky Irving, and I got laughed at. And at this point, you can't. I put up a poll, and I think it was very much so Bucky Irving over him all day.
Yeah, I voted on that poll. Yeah,
there you go.
I was smart enough to stash her Bucky heading into week 1 in some formats, because I liked Rashad White as a talent, but he's just one of those weird running backs where he doesn't really specialize in, like running between the tackles enough, where he's a good third down running back, but he's just so average. So it's like getting opportunity to start is the only reason why he's like, running away with it. But now they got a guy like Bucky Irving who, again, like really takes on different angles when it comes to running the football. And he doesn't, people want to break away speed from Irving and stuff like that. And he has some of it, but it's not like he needs it. So it's where it's like, all right, cool. Like, let's just go with Irving. And now he's starting to get more opportunities, a little bit more, snap percentages. And, again, like, Bowles is like, yeah, he's going to earn more opportunities. I'm like, okay, well, that's the cue to pick him up, people. So, but yeah, Braylon Allen, same thing. Like, it's just not same thing, but obviously Breece Hall is the guy. But it's more about, can he have some standalone value potentially? Sure. Some flex appeal, and especially in a like deeper format, yes. But anything more than that, you got to look to see if the Breece Hall owner will look to overpay for Braylon Allen right now, because that's probably the only way you might be able to get something done. Otherwise, it doesn't make any much sense, because again, he has some standalone value, but that's only really if like Hall goes down or miss a game or whatever. Like, hopefully that doesn't happen.
Yeah, Braylon Allen's only good if the Jets are projected to win, because he's going to get in there late and mop up some of that kind of garbage time when they have a lead type plays. I think that's the only time I would start him.
Totally. All right, moving on, guys. We got a question from the Twitter for a dynasty question. So he has Cortland Sutton against the Jets, Johnny's favorite guy. Or he rolled the dice with Ty Chandler or Bateman, so a super flex dynasty full PPR. Man, this is tough. I would just say, man, I don't know. Who do the Ravens play this week? Man, that's still tough. That's not clear at all.
I should know this. They play the Bills this week.
Oh, all right. What do you think about that?
Playing Cortland Sutton. So I write the weekly streamers and sleepers article for Fantrax, and I wrote about Cortland Sutton. I think, yes, the Denver Broncos offense isn't great, but I think they're starting to click, and I think Bo Nix is getting there. He hasn't thrown a touchdown yet, but I think he's starting to see it. And Cortland Sutton is soaking up a good chunk of volume. Listen, we just saw the Bills totally shut down the Jags. I'm not playing any Ravens receiver.
Even if
I want to roll with Cortland Sutton. Yeah.
Even especially with Sean Bateman. Like, I probably played Nelson Aguilar before Bateman.
I mean, if you're talking about Cortland Sutton had 12 targets in week 1, 11 last week. Now, week 2, he only had 4. But he's going to see probably double-digit targets most weeks in that offense, because there's just no one else. Like, who else is there to throw the ball to? I mean, Greg Dulcich has played okay. Little Jordan Humphrey, Josh Reynolds. I mean, Marvin Mims is hot trash. I mean, so he's not throwing to him. He can't even get on the field. So it's just going to be Cortland Sutton.
Terrible.
Yeah. Cortland Sutton, one of my favorite late round picks in drafts.
Yep.
Able to get him at some points 8, 9. Everything you said, like, he's really the only show in town with that offense. Like, you got to think that Bo Nix, he's going to progress. He's going to get better. And like, for whatever people want to say, whatever they want to say, Sean Payton is still a good NFL football coach. He's still a good NFL football coach. And listen, it's all right. It's a hot take, whatever. That's fine.
I wouldn't say it's a hot take.
I still think that Sean Payton is a good coach. And I think he's obviously, you have to find ways to get your best player the football, and he's probably their best player on the offensive side of the ball.
Tell them get the ball to Javonte Williams, damn it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Get the ball.
We're talking waivers. If you want to be a week ahead, you could look at Audric Estime too. Possibly someone who takes over, because they're looking for some sort of spark. And I think we could see a game this week where you get some work, and he might be on your week 5 show. But I think if you want to be a week ahead, look at Audric Estime if you got a spot.
I like that.
I like that too. I like that as well. Top receivers for the waivers. So, in no particular order, by the way. Jalen Tolbert, Michael Wilson, Darnell Mooney, QJ makes the list again. Leggett makes the list again. Pop Douglas, C. Patterson, Cordero Patterson.
Shout out UT.
Shout out UT. I keep every time I put a UT guy in, I expect that to come out from Johnny's mouth.
That's right.
Did we miss anybody on this list overall, you guys? Was there anyone that you guys wanted to speak about?
Other than Jalen Naylor? No.
He was on the list last week, you know.
Listen, I think it has to be Darnell Mooney. He's the guy who's seeing consistent targets from Kirk Cousins. It seems like defense are focusing on Kyle Pitts and Drake London, so Mooney is stepping up and getting some extra, volume there, which I like. I think it's going to continue. Kirk Cousins still looks a little statue-like, but he seems to be moving a little more and more every week. So as he gets more in the rhythm of that offense, I think it'll be fine. Heaven forbids Kirk Cousins ever goes down, they will get to start the best quarterback from this draft class in Michael Penix, and that's just going to take Mooney to the roof. Best quarterback from the draft class was Michael Penix by far, and he will get a chance. When he gets a chance, he will show it, and I think that's good for by far.
Wow.
Okay. All right.
I
like Michael Penix. I like him. I like him. But I don't know if he's the best guy in the draft, but I could dig it.
The only name that's not on here that I like is Andre Yosevach for the Cincinnati Bengals.
I took it off.
Gotten some work.
He should be.
He's gotten some work with Higgins, so Higgins is back, and I think that's going to cut through share. But we've seen that offense produce 3 top wide receivers for fantasy when they had Tyler Boyd. I think Andre Yosevach can fill in all those roles. So if one of those guys, Chase or Higgins, is banged up, Yosevach can fill in. He's played really well, has touchdowns in 2 weeks, so he's a name that I think you should be looking at on your waiver wire.
Definitely. Understandable. And the reason why is because Yosevach, again, definitely an ad. We should be adding him because he's only now available. Look at that sleeper. He's still available.
Yeah, he's I think there's 9% of leagues, man. He's only rostered.
I really thought it was more than that.
Yeah, I'm looking at 17% of leagues. He's only rostered in.
Really thought it was more than that. Wow. Yeah. Wow. That's nuts. But yeah, Yosevach definitely deserves to be added. He should be added a lot more.
Yeah.
This week overall. Johnny, anyone?
Not anybody that's jumping on. I think a lot of those players are players that either we should have. But I think
let's talk Quentin Johnson. Have we changed our opinion on him?
I can't even say. I don't know if he escaped. I guess you could say he escaped the island. It was zone coverage, but I think it's definitely a thing, and this is Dustin was talking about it. He's buying the Justin Herbert piece, and it looks like Quentin Johnson is gonna be the guy for sure. So for me, I've got Quentin, I've got him stashed in a couple leagues on the waiver. I picked him up 2 weeks ago in a couple leagues. So for me, this is a wide receiver one on a team that, they're a run-based team. But obviously with a run-based team like that, you're going to see a lot of play action. You see a lot of play action, you're going to have the opportunity for a lot of big plays. He's a big body inside the red zone as well, obviously, if he can come down with it. So I think for me, man, QJ, I'm subscribing to that. I'm rocking with him. And then obviously I'll say it once, I'll say it twice. My boy, Jalen Naylor, KOC, baby.
KOC, baby. KOC. Listen, I'll do you guys a favor right here, right now. I will say something. You guys can clip it and just put it in next week on your week 5 sell highs, and you guys go do a bathroom break. You need to sell high on Quentin Johnson after next week. He has played okay, but he's not seeing huge volume. And when Josh Palmer comes back, you will see Quentin Johnson start to tail off, and we'll see Josh Palmer come back. Ladd McConkey continue to rise and learn the offense. I think QJ is going to go back to what he is. He can't handle a ton of volume. He's only seen at most 6 targets. You're going to want to sell high sooner rather than later. So I think next week he has a decent game against KC. Then it's the bye. Then that's where you want to sell. So I think you want to sell high on Quentin Johnson after next game against Kansas City.
Yeah, I am. If there's opportunity to trade for Ladd McConkey, I would do it.
Yeah,
because I think he'll be a lot more. To your point, I think he's going to develop a lot better, and he should become more of a focal point in this offense once he really dives more deeper into it. When we were talking about this on the TBQ show, we were talking about this guy, Ladd should be a guy that he's not going to be the so-called separator for a team, but easily could be someone's Wes Welker, easily somebody's Julian Edelman, something like that, where it's like he gets these great short intermediate routes and he's able to grab all these catches. I think he could do this for his Chargers team, even though they run the ball a ton. Like, I think that you go that route before everyone catches on to that, and then all of a sudden, like Lad comes out and gets like 8 to 10, catches. He goes off for a huge performance. So he's someone that, if he's someone like more of a trade bait, because I'm sure he's highly owned still. Yeah, he's definitely high owned on sleeper, 82%.
What I'm looking for on that Chargers offense is who can fill that Keenan Allen role. Now I know it's a new team with a new scheme, but who's going to fill that Keenan Allen role for Justin Herbert? It's probably Josh Palmer or Ladd McConkey. It's not Quentin Johnson. So I'll take a flyer on those guys and sell high on Quentin Johnson. The only other name that's not on here that I think should be on here is Mike Williams for the Jets. He's rostered in 31% of leagues on sleeper. Nice. He's coming back. They've been slowly working him in. We've seen Alan Lazard get a lot of targets, but he had 3 receptions for 34 yards, played 5% of the snaps, 65 the week before. I think he's going to get worked more and more, get comfortable with Aaron Rodgers. I think he's a guy I want to buy now. They have a late bye week in week 12, so I think you can get him off waivers now, put him on your bench, and then week 5, 6, 7, you'll see some increase in volume, and you'll have a good stash there for you.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. The only thing I would say about Mike Williams is that this Jets team, like, we all know where the ball's going to go. So Mike Williams is going to be classic Mike Williams, where it could just be like, a spike week or two, but then it's also could go back to like really low floor. So yeah, I would pick him up, stash him, wait for that blow up game to happen, and then trade him away.
We got one more name to mention. Jalen Naylor, KOC.
Hey, KOC. Oh, and the other thing I didn't even hit you with either, Nick.
Hold on, I gotta mute these guys for a second because these guys are just going on a tangent. But you guys can come back in. Come on back to the show. Come on back.
This is the other thing too.
You.
Before we move, Josh Palmer, shout out you too.
Going on to the tight ends, folks. Going on to the tight ends.
Wasteland.
There's some tight ends here that, again, tight ends been awful this year. Anyway, slice it between some injuries to just guys that at the top that have not been performing, and then just injuries to whatever, to Mark Andrews doing I don't know what on the field.
Nothing.
What are we saying about the tight ends here? And then was there any tight ends that are we seeing that we still could be able to pick up that's producing pretty well? Last time I checked, I was going to add Freiermuth to this list, but it feels like he's at a decent percentage amount of leagues. The last time I checked, he's 67% owned on sleeper. So yeah, that's why he didn't make the list. But some of these other guys, I want to highlight Conklin, and not because I'm a Jets fan. It's just more about Conklin, and he's had 80 or more targets in back-to-back seasons. And now coming into this year, like, he has Aaron Rodgers healthy. Like, this could be a scenario where this could be a nice floor play every week for you. Especially if you're struggling, if you have Ingram, if you have Likely right now, like, and you're just not too sure about like someone's, floor overall. I think Conklin can come in and fill in and be a guy that, if he's, seeing this type of usage, I would probably wait another week. I would pick him up and probably wait. Probably wouldn't start him per se this upcoming week, but we know that, again, going back to the Jets passing attack, it's centralized. It's Wilson, it's Hall underneath, and then who else, right? It's sometimes Mike Williams, it's sometimes Conklin, sometimes Lazard. Like, so it's got to take your pick. I think Conklin is an easier, nice safety valve for Aaron Rodgers, who's shown us in the past that he's willing to check it down to tight ends. So that's where I kind of sit on this. I think Hunter Henry is the same boat. It's just New England just had a bad game this past weekend. Yeah. I just think that Hunter Henry can still be like, another one of those guys that comes out of nowhere with like 10 catches like he did in week 2.
Yeah.
What are you guys saying overall?
Yeah, I think Hunter Henry's interesting with the possibility of Drake May starting. We don't know who's going to be the top target on the team. So when we don't know, like, I'm willing to take a risk on all those guys. I really like Mike Gesicki. Baby Bowl and the Scottfish one and done league where you start guys and you can only start them once a week. I'm starting Mike Gesicki in both those leagues as my tight end this week.
Right.
Great matchup against Carolina. Conklin, Ertz, Komet, they're okay. 2 names I will add. I like Eric All also for Cincinnati. This might be the last week of Gesicki. We've seen Eric All get moved in a little more.
That's definitely a dynasty ad.
Yeah, but he's still playing decent snaps. He's caught 4 targets, all 4 of his targets the past 2 weeks. Now he's only had 32 yards and 20 yards and playing 34% of the snaps. But
we Drew Sample. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, I think he's young enough and built enough that if we like Gesicki, we have to like Eric All to also be worked in. And then if you need someone, and if Evan Ingram still misses, Brenton Strange for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now I know their quarterback is hot trash and Justin and Trevor Lawrence. I know the team is not great, but he's played 70% of the snaps, got 5 targets. Now he only caught 2, but did catch a touchdown. I like his target volume. They're just not quality targets because they're coming from Trevor Lawrence. But I think if you are looking for a deep play and you are in that wasteland and you've missed and you can't get some of these other guys, I think he's a guy you can pick up on Wednesday once waivers have run. I think you can pick Brenton Strange for Jacksonville Jaguars. I think you pick him up for free once waivers have run if you need someone.
Makes sense. Johnny, go ahead.
No, Strange, like he's somebody like I've got a few shares of because I did have Evan Ingram. I do have Evan Ingram. So he's somebody that I had to pick up. And then like past that, like for me, like it is kind of a wasteland. I think, obviously Zach Ertz is somebody obviously you could take a look at. I think seeing what Jaden Daniels did last night, I think obviously that evolution is going to continue. Hunter Henry is somebody that I think, like to your point, he's going to yo-yo on your waivers. And man, your man Tyler Conklin, man, like dude, that guy kills me, bro, because every time I play him, he gets 2 points. When I don't play him, he drops 18 or 23 every time, like clockwork, bro. But yeah, like I said, Strange, I'm in on that. Don't talk to me about Dallas Goedert, bro. Don't do that. Don't do that, man, dude. Last short Monday night, I went all in on Dallas Goedert for like MVP for all of the single game slates, dude. I had like probably like 70% of him, bro. Like Dallas Goedert. I'm like, this is the
nope.
No, he waited till Sunday.
Till Sunday.
Yeah. What about you, man? What you got, Nick?
I mean, look, I think that I'm not gonna buy into Cole Kmet here on this list.
No,
because it's just a tried and true thing. People are just trying to Kmet a thing, I feel, and it's just not there. I know he had a great game this past week. I'm not, saying that he couldn't be someone you could potentially start this week, but at the same time, it's like, let's look at the game overall, like, and find out if, do we expect Caleb Williams to throw the ball 57 times a game? No. So I think that in terms of Kmet, like, once Keon Allen gets back, like, Kmet just goes back to being split in time with Gerald Everett. Yeah. Like, I put him on the list because I think if you're really desperate for a tight end, like, he's probably worth a start. Playing against the Rams, where the game could go a little bit more back and forth. But I like Conklin going and being at home against Denver, in which like Patrick Surtain's gonna look to take away Garrett Wilson, like, and then again, who else do you have besides checking down to Bruce Hall and then trying to get a deep shot to Mike Williams? Like, you're gonna have Tyler Conklin getting the ball, based on game script, of course. So and then Hunter Henry. I think he's still a guy that people are going to probably drop this week. I think that's someone that you should still pick up because he still has that ability to, outside of, Polk and Pop Douglas and stuff like that. Like, you need a guy like Hunter Henry in the middle that's going to take away, that safety valve for as long as Jacoby Brissett still starts. Like, I think if Drake May starts, might change things a little bit more. But in terms of, just needing a tight end, because, again, you're either dealing with injuries or you're dealing with a guy that's underperforming. It's just, again, you need at least think about another option to start based on matchups. So that's why I got there. And then defenses, streaming defenses, we got a few. We got a couple from the same game, the Browns and the Raiders here. I really like the Chiefs because I think if Herbert's not 100%, he's also missing his tackles this week. I think the Chiefs could easily feast upon that. Sure. We saw what they did to Atlanta's run game against that zone freaking blocking where, again, Zach Robinson just constantly wanted to run against this Chiefs run defense, and the Chiefs stifled it every time. Now they're going to a match with the Chargers against Harbaugh, who's going to look to do some running of his own. But if Herbert's not 100% after missing potentially both their starting tackles, the over-under right now is also pretty low. I think it's like 39.5 right now, something like that. Yep. Yeah, I just like the Chiefs' defense if they're somewhere out there on the waiver wire. Browns or Raiders, because I think that game could easily be like a rock fight. Because Watson is just taking lickings, and I wonder if he's going to hold up now, because that offensive line for the Browns is usually pretty decent, but they've been trash starting this season. And I think the Raiders are definitely looking to bounce back after getting their asses kicked by the Carolina Panthers when they were at home. And then the Texans, I think, are going to look to bounce back because they play against Jacksonville, which we've talked about all show about how Jacksonville is pretty trash. So I think Houston is definitely a defense pickup as well. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Did you guys have any other takes for any other defenses you guys saw? No, Minnesota, of course, too, but it's a Green Bay. If Jordan Love comes back, it might be a little bit.
Yeah, when I'm looking at defenses, I try to stay away from divisional games, except for an instance like the Chiefs, where you're going to get probably a backup quarterback, and I'll take that all day.
Oh yeah,
yeah. No, the Chiefs, man. Like I've said it already. Like I think they're obviously one of the better defenses in the NFL. So anytime like I can have the opportunity to have them, like I'll definitely take that. And then from there, like it is just kind of like pinpointing quarterback matchups and looking at like low unders. It's funny, like the Browns and the Raiders. Do I trust either one of those teams right now? No, like not under any circumstance. Like I don't even trust them in that. You know what I mean? So I think the Chiefs are obviously a good call. That's really like the biggest one that comes to mind. I will tell you, and I've been saying this, and I'll continue to keep saying this. I think one of the defenses. And I'm not saying this because you're here, but one of the defenses that has looked great on film for all 22 is Buffalo. Buffalo's looked really, really good. A lot better on defense than what I thought they were going to be this year after losing some pieces. But I'm definitely in on them for sure. So if you have the opportunity to get them, go for
it. Word. I agree.
Okay. Cool. Final thoughts, y'all. Any final thoughts?
For me, I think
any soapboxes?
No soapboxes. Just a couple final thoughts for me. Like first thing, man, is definitely Dustin, man. Thank you, appreciate you for coming on the show, man. It's been great for sure. Definitely make sure you go give Dustin a follow 100% on Twitter and check out some of his work. But for me, man, I think it was just good just to hear somebody else on the Jalen Naylor train. For sure, KOC it's definitely good to hear, and yeah, man, like that's really like the biggest thing. Like I got, man, my biggest takeaway. And Sam Darnold is absolutely somebody that we should be looking at as a viable quarterback one option. Obviously, in a two QB super flex format, definitely somebody you should be considering. The same thing with Justin Fields as well. So yeah, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on, and you guys are coming on my show next at 10 p.m. Eastern. So we're going to be talking with Drop Players, and I dropped it in the comment on YouTube. It hasn't popped up yet, link to the show, but I appreciate you guys coming on. It's great to hear other people talk about, different opinions and different viewpoints on different players. And I think when you're talking about sit, starts, waivers, what we saw, I think we all look at the game differently. So it's great to get those opinions. So if you're out there listening and you want to know more, like reach out to the three of us on Twitter, hit up the show every week. You guys do great, like answering your comments and your questions. I think that's what fantasy football is about. It's about creating this community where you're not just in this vacuum of yourself and what you hear from one or two people. You need to get more opinions. And I think it's been great. It's been a fun show. I appreciate you guys having me on.
That's awesome. Yeah, for sure. I mean, we appreciate you appreciate you coming on, Dustin. We look forward to getting on your show as well. If you guys want more of this, if you guys can't go to sleep right away, we will be on Dustin's show as well, Bridge the Gap. Again, follow us all on Twitter here at the displayed tags. Our next show for the Fantasy Football Show is Sunday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. We got your bets, props, start, sits, questions, breaking down everything DFS as well, bring you guys the value, looking to fill your pockets up with cash, just trying to give you guys some great direction overall in terms of, final minute stuff, in terms of how the slate will go. But that being said, we look forward to seeing you guys on Sunday or in a couple minutes on Bridge the Gap with Dustin. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.